in the second half. How do you get more of that kind of close to goal in the attacking third?
Yeah, I think that's always really every game you're going to want a little more. This is definitely a game where we wanted a little more in that second half, especially. I thought first half we created some pretty good chances. We even had a few, I thought, very good moments second half. The Derek one where he's in on goal on a breakaway, Pedro shot, but we want more. So I think we've looked a lot at the final third and how we can create in the half spaces in zone 14. I think the wingers can, at times, make little slip runs, wing progression runs, so that now the outside backs can roll them in, which also opens up space for Cucho and Lucas in that zone 14, or that I call the golden zone, which is the second or third six. That's where goals are scored. Most goals are created in the half spaces, and I think we could have done a better job of getting in those spots.
And when you look at, I guess, just creating more chances, the 4-2-3-1 has worked very well lately, so I'm not suggesting you throw that out, but obviously Aidan was playing very, very well, and Artur comes back. I'm just curious, have you toyed with the thought of going to a 4-3-3 to try to get him in there, and how do you think that would, I guess, disrupt or maybe enhance the offense? Certainly it revolves a lot around Lucas and Cucho, right?
Yeah, I think, again, we've been playing really well, and I guess the question would be why change, right? And
sure.
I think, but we're always talking about how we can get our best players on the field, create more, defend better, always. But we've lost one game in 12, and it's not a bad result, right? We aren't satisfied with it, but we caught a very hot team who had scored 9 goals and who's one of the best home teams in the league. And we outplayed them in the game, right? We wanted to win. We didn't win, but it's still a good result. So I think the worst thing you can do as a coach is overcorrect for no reason. There's always going to be, sentiment that why don't they do this, or why don't they do that, or why don't they play this guy, or why don't they play that guy. I have to stay on my process, in my reality. And my reality and process works week to week on improving the team. And I think if you are struggling to create chances, struggling to defend well, and struggling to get results, then you need to think about changing personnel and system. I don't think that's the case right now. So I get it. It gives people something to talk about, but ultimately I think we've been playing well. And last game we played well. We had a good result on the road. We could have won the game, but I think the overcorrection would be a weird decision and choice. I hate that we can't always have players on the field. I wish I had 12, 13 guys to play. Aidan was playing well. Artie's a very good player, been a very good player for us. So, for me, both those players are good players. Just so happens that one of them is going to be out,
right.
If we play a 4-2-3-1.
So in your view, it's more so the 4-2-3-1 is the best system for what you have right now, and you're playing well. And if you want to get Aidan in, move around, that's just something you kind of have in your back pocket when you want to use it.
The players got to pick the team. And at the end of the day, it's not about me trying to find a formation, because I could find another player as well that I'd like to get on the field. And you can make the same argument for Josh Williams if Milos is playing, or Milos is if Josh Williams isn't. You can make the same argument for Yaya Boa. You can make the same argument for Eric Hurtado, who's played pretty well. And at the end of the day, there's not a system that supports every player you want on the field. So it's not about anything other than winning the game and putting out what you feel is your most balanced team to create chances, stop goals, and play the way you need to play to win games. And I think we've been playing well. Even in the Montreal game, we're 6 minutes away from winning that game. If we just close it out, I don't see a formation problem there. I don't see a performance problem in that game. It's a very good team, Montreal, and we just didn't close the game out. So it's more about refining, improving with what we're doing, without wholesale changes. This is not the time of the year to be making wholesale changes all the time. Why would we want to? We've taken a lot of points in these last 12 games.
Just to follow up with Aidan Artur. What do you see as the differences, maybe the strengths of each, that when you're looking at which guy you're going with?
I think again, Aidan's the future. Aidan's still, I remind people, a young player. He played, I think, 4 or 5 games his first year in 2020. One of those happened to be the MLS Cup final, but he didn't play a ton of games that year. But he had a great game in the final. And then he was injured with an ACL all season the year after that. And then this year he's made a uptick of starts. His development and improvement has been outstanding. But you have to understand the progression. He played a few games and he was out all year, and now he's played a lot of games. And he's going to continue to play a lot of games. He might play the next game. But you can't forget that Artur is a very good player, and has been a starter here and has been one of the best midfielders in the league. And when Aidan was playing, Artur was out. He was injured. So they're different players. They're similar in some ways. They're both rangy. They both cover a lot of ground. They both win balls. They're both pretty good on the ball. But I think they're both similar players in what they offer. And so it's a tough position to be in. You got 2 good players. Darlington's our rhythm guy, and you got 2 ball winners. And Aidan's done well when he's been in, and Artie's done well when he's been in. So last couple games I chose Artie. I thought just that New York City game, we needed his leadership and his experience. But Aidan's the future for sure, and ultimately, yeah, there are some times where we need to get them both on the field.
I'm sure coming into the year, on the wings, you had a vision. You brought in Yao. That's clearly shifted some, injuries playing a part. But I mean, even in this game, you bring in Eric, you bring in James. How much has that shifted because of performance? Maybe Cucho and who he's best with? I mean, just as the years progressed, how have you seen kind of what you thought the winger position may be as to what it's been now, where you're definitely getting production out of it?
Yeah, again, I go back to, I don't know why we're talking about changing anything, but I guess that's just what people can talk about. But I don't know why we're changing much. Played extremely well, we're getting results, we're in a good run, we're scoring goals. We're not going to always score 2-3 goals a game. We're defending pretty well. Our balance is good, so I think it's more about just looking at the film and going to training and improving just aspects of our team. And I think looking at them when we make subs, okay, what do those subs look like? Kevin Molino wasn't available last game. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but he wasn't on the bench. So that's why I didn't put him in, which meant that I had Yao, James, and Eric. And ultimately, when I lost Luis Diaz, he had to come out of the game. I felt like it was a transitional game. Eric's been playing really well, and I thought his pace was something that would help us in transitions with the open spaces that Colorado was opening up. So that was why I went with that. I also think Yao, he needs to show when he comes in off the bench that he can perform, and I think there were a couple games where, he needed to keep the ball and defend a little bit, better. So those are things I talked to him about, and he understands. It doesn't mean I won't go back to him as a sub, but in that game, I thought with Eric's performances in training and his ability to stretch the game and provide like what Luis Diaz does, that was the right choice. Now I'll go off the evidence I had that game and make my decisions the next week. As coaches, we can only make decisions based on what we know and what we've seen and the proof that we have. And I dig into those things every single day. Those things that are in my head are based on analyzing every game and every training. I see every day in training. So, I think Eric has the ability to come into games and create goals, and he can play wide, he can play up top. He has scored goals for us, and I think he's an interesting option off the bench when we need a goal, which is why I made that decision. James has also started games wide and come into games and been very good to close games by keeping the ball and defending well, which is usually what you need when you're up. So I went with those two, and now if Molino's back, then now he's another option. But I don't always make the right decisions, but I usually make the right decisions based on what I've seen every day in training and games.
You talked, I think it was the New York City game where you guys played midweek, they did not. This week you guys have that advantage with Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
When you have these games, obviously you watch the game tonight, but how do you then adjust for Saturday, knowing they're going to make tweaks? Obviously they'll probably rotate. Just what's kind of the thought process when you're the one kind of sitting back and viewing what the other team's doing during the midweek?
Well, it's nice because we have 5 days to prep for one team, and they have to prep for Red Bull, and then they have to turn around and maybe have a day where they can prep for us. So we have 5 days to prep the entire week. We started that process today. We already showed film of kind of how they defend and attack. We went out and obviously trained versus their structures they've been playing. They've been playing 4-2-3-1 and a 3-4-3. So we trained today against those two structures. We'll train again tomorrow against those two structures. So that gives us 2 days where we can really work tactically versus what we think they're going to do. And they've gone 2 different structures, so I think we have to be prepared for both. And they've even changed in game. But also they want the ball, they want to press, so we can, irrespective of the formation, we can kind of train those phases to prepare and be ready. We do need to continue to improve. I'm not saying everything's perfect with our group, but I think we're starting to reach the business end of the year where we need stability, continuity, and that's the best way to continue to play well is continuity, stability, and then improve with training and watching the games.
Thanks,
Okay.
Caleb.
Thank you.